Alright, so yesterday at Ubisoft Forward, we got that 13-minute gameplay walkthrough. We got to see the perspective and differences in gameplay between Yasuke and Naoe, some stealth, combat, open world traversal, the usual. Along with that, we got some extra details from the developers and some extra footage from some creators who were flown out to LA. So lots to break down, I won't waste any more time, let's get into it. The gameplay walkthrough starts from the perspective of Yasuke as he's on horseback and is headed for the nearby city, Fukuchiyama. And again, the environment looks stunning. It was really hard to tell initially because of how horrible the Ubisoft Forward stream quality was, but after watching it back through the video Ubisoft uploaded, it looks great. Someone in the comments of my video yesterday was saying this game's graphics look like Jade, the mobile game? What? Were we watching the same gameplay? But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to exploration in this game. I'm loving the look of all the environments they've shown so far. But once Yasuke arrives, he dismounts, and this is where I realized just how massive Yasuke actually is. Like, holy, he is towering over these people. It's insane. I don't think we've ever played as this tall of a character in Assassin's Creed before. I think the closest would probably be Connor Kenway, but he wasn't towering over all the NPCs like Yasuke here. I do really like that all the NPCs bow to him as well as he walks by, since he is a samurai. That's a very nice touch, and that's unique to when we play as Yasuke, as people won't be doing that obviously when we play as Naoe. Something else I definitely took notice of was the NPC density. There are a lot of NPCs roaming the city, which is always a massive plus to me. I've talked at length many times before about how important crowd density is to Assassin's Creed games, and that was a big contributing factor to what made AC Unity's world so immersive. I hope all the larger cities are this packed and dense. Yasuke then stops to pet a dog. I've been playing lots of Rise of the Ronin recently, so that definitely looked familiar. This also gives us a small glimpse into Yasuke's softer side and warm personality. The way he's been described and shown as a character so far, in terms of personality, kind of reminds me of Bayek, where he can be super warm and friendly to the innocent, but extremely ruthless and brutal to his enemies. That's what made Bayek so likable, but also such a badass at the same time. They struck a really nice balance with his character, and hopefully they can do the same for Yasuke. Next, we see a quick little cutscene of Yasuke conversing with this woman, who wants his help dealing with the samurai of Fukuchiyama who've been taxing and oppressing the citizens. Now, cutscene quality is going to be very important for this game, as cutscene quality has really taken a bit of a dive from Odyssey onward. And after Valhalla and Mirage specifically, it's become a very clear issue to me. Now, this cutscene is clearly not motion captured, but the animations do look better than what we've had in the last couple games. And this is a small, more insignificant cutscene, so I wouldn't expect it to be motion captured. But both in terms of facial and body animation, it looks better than even Odyssey to me, which is of course Ubisoft Quebec's last game. It's hard to know how the rest of them will look, as this is only a single scene for the sake of a gameplay walkthrough, but we did see a couple other cutscenes in the gameplay trailer from the other day that did appear to be motion captured, and those looked quite good. So hopefully we're trending back up in terms of cutscene quality, because that was honestly my biggest issue with Mirage. Once this cutscene ends, we can see the new mission is to assassinate a target who roams the town. This is the mission structure we've been hearing about that will be open-ended and revolve around assassinations. So we enter a new place and piece together clues about where this target may be, and then find and assassinate them. Not too dissimilar from the Order of Ancients and Cult of Cosmos tabs from Odyssey and Valhalla. I quite like missions like this because it gives you lots of freedom and doesn't tell you exactly where your target is. Instead, you have to do some investigating and find them in the city as they roam around it in real time. It's kind of an evolution on what AC1's assassinations were like, as you did the same thing, only it wasn't quite as open and freeing, as you had to do a specific amount of investigations before being allowed to assassinate a target. And I assume this way, if you get lucky or just try to look for the most likely place where your target may be, you can find them without having to do much investigating, so I do really like that component of it and all the freedom it offers. Yasuke then finds his target terrorizing people on the town streets. It does this quick little zoom in every time you spot your target, which is pretty cool. But from here, we get to see some uncut gameplay of the combat. So before getting into that, there are a few things about the UI I want to delve into. First of all, the combat UI is dynamic, which is really nice, meaning it doesn't show up when you're just exploring, all you have is the compass, but once you enter combat, your health and all your abilities will pop up. I really appreciate when open world games do this, and it's very nice for exploring, as you don't have as many HUD elements taking up the screen, especially when you don't even need them until you're in combat. But next, I noticed you have manual healing items, with the little med icon up here with a 3 next to it, which is more like Valhalla and Mirage. We can also see that you can have 2 weapons equipped at a time to switch between on the fly. This was possible in Origins and Odyssey. Valhalla removed this system in favor of dual wielding, but dual wielding won't be a thing in this game, so we're back to being able to switch between 2 weapons on the fly. On the bottom here, I believe this would be Eagle Vision, and then on the right we have 3 combat abilities. Interestingly enough, there's only 3 and not 4 like it was in Odyssey and Valhalla. I wonder why that is. 2 of these abilities will be specific to the weapon type you're using, and then the third one on the left will be a character-specific ability that we can equip, and that will be changeable with other abilities we find, which is quite different from the other games, as in those, you could switch out all 4. These little diamonds here above the health bar is the adrenaline meter, which you build by dealing damage and defending off attacks, and that's what charges up your combat abilities. Pretty standard. But as for combat itself, when this guy does an unblockable attack, Yasuke gets a well-timed dodge, which brings the game into slow motion for a second. So slow motion on well-timed dodges are back, and with what I can only imagine is a heavy attack, he breaks the enemy's armor off and stuns him. And this armor durability bar in yellow will be on every enemy who's wearing armor. And I like that you can actually see the pieces of armor and helmet break off and then stay on the ground too. They don't just disappear. Yasuke then finishes this guy with a brutal execution animation, of which we see plenty in this walkthrough. Next, we see this guy attack with a blue indicator, which I assume are attacks that can only be deflected and parried. You can't just hold block on these, I would guess, which is exactly how it is in Ghost of Tsushima. Yasuke continues to mow down Samurai with a combo of attacks. We do know there's going to be charged heavy and charged light attacks, as we see Yasuke do one here that branches into a finisher. He then uses one of his combat abilities to one-shot this guy. Something I really noticed with the combat here is how quick the time to kill is. Yasuke is taking these guys out in only a few hits, even with some of the armor, and then when you see him fight an unarmored enemy later, he straight up one-shots him with the katana with a move called the sheathed attack. I view this as more of a positive than a negative, but I guess it depends on the person. One of my bigger issues with the RPG game's combat is how damage spongy some of the enemies can be, where you're just wailing on them for minutes, with blows that should most certainly be lethal, but they just absorb all that damage. And it could make combat feel almost like a grind at times, especially in Odyssey. So I like having a quicker time to kill and more realistic damage. That's something Ghost of Tsushima nailed, especially with its lethal difficulty, and if Shadows is taking after that, I'm all for it. I mean, we don't know what difficulty this walkthrough is on. I would assume probably normal, but who knows. Even in this boss fight though, Yasuke drains this guy's health pretty quickly. I also personally like that there's no damage numbers or levels above enemies' heads as well. There are still health bars, but if the time to kill is that quick, I may just end up turning off those as well. But I like that they did this, it just looks cleaner and more immersive to me. Now, once we get to the boss fight, we do see that this is a level 30 enemy. So this mission is probably in the mid-game if we're comparing it to the leveling scale of Origins and Odyssey. One little thing to take note of is when Yasuke takes damage, we don't see any auto health regen, which would make sense if the healing is manual, although I am curious if health will regenerate once outside of combat. Maybe you could unlock that as a skill or something. But if it's like Mirage and Valhalla, then there will be no auto health regen at all. Yasuke decapitates this guy, and there's a filter that goes over the screen while you do, which appears to happen each time you kill one of your main targets, as we see it happens again with Naoe later on. We then have a cutscene between Naoe and Yasuke, and this one is motion captured. You can tell by how realistic and human their movements look, so that's a good sign. Again, I don't expect motion capture on every cutscene, but if we could just have it on a majority of the main story stuff, like Origins, that would be great. But next, Yasuke and Naoe want to assassinate the daimyo, and they locate him by using the spies network we've heard about, which seems to be just simply going into the map and scanning an area for one of your spies to mark things for you. You can see on the left there are 3 scouts, and one disappears once you scan an area. So we'll be able to scan once per scout, and then it'll probably be on cooldown for a little while. I'm sure you can probably get more scouts as you progress through the game. It's an interesting system. I wonder if there's more to it than just simply scanning the map, as it seems quite basic. It is also kind of weird that this happens instantaneously. Naoe and Yasuke are like, hey, let's send our allies to look for him. 2 seconds later and they know exactly where the target is. I mean, it's a video game, it's not a huge deal, but I found that pretty funny.
We should go.
Not before we send our allies to look for him. He'll be difficult to find.
He's there.
But here there's an option to charge in the front gate of the castle as Yasuke, or sneak under the cover of darkness as Naoe. And like most Assassin's Creed players would probably choose, the demo goes with the stealthy approach.
Don't worry. I won't be alone. It'll be me and the shadows.
That's the name of the game!
In the shadows.
That's also the name of the game!
Serve the light.
We're gonna need a counter for how many times they say shadows in this game. But with that, we transition into some Naoe gameplay. We see what Naoe's eagle vision looks like. She uses the grappling hook in a backflip aerial assassination, which looks pretty badass. I'm really liking how the grappling hook has looked thus far in all of the gameplay. You seem to have a lot of control with it, and you can gain a lot of speed and distance as well. And then we can also see Naoe snap into cover here, which is very interesting. We haven't been able to do that in quite a long time. You can kind of go into cover in Mirage, but it's only when aiming a tool. We haven't had a legit cover system like this since Unity and Syndicate. So I wonder if entering cover is a button press like Unity, or is it like Syndicate where you'll automatically take cover if you go up to it? Probably the latter. Either way, I'm glad to see a more fleshed out cover system back. And of course, as we've known for a while, Shadows will be the first AC game where we can go prone too, as we see her crawl through this tall grass. Once again, we see the cover system in action while crouched, and Naoe brings up her tools in the UI, where we see kunai, shuriken, smoke bombs, and the bell. I assume the bell is just a lore. We haven't seen any gameplay of it yet, but I assume it would function similarly to the wind chimes from Ghost of Tsushima. Naoe then uses a shuriken to destroy a lantern, creating darkness around this enemy that allows her to just run up to him and take him out. And a small thing, but it's good to know you can vault objects like this in the game. You can see that when you're hidden in the darkness, this little white silhouette will appear around your character so you know you're hidden, similar to when you're in tall grass or a hiding place. Now, this part is really cool. Naoe uses the Kasurigama to close the distance to this enemy and assassinate him. That's great. I really like that you can do that. That's going to open up so many opportunities in stealth. We get to see some very brief climbing. It does appear to be very fast, but again, we didn't see much parkour in this gameplay walkthrough, so it's hard to tell just how fast and mechanically in-depth it actually is. I mean, the animations we've seen so far look really cool, with Naoe doing flips and stuff, but I was hoping for a more clear display of parkour with an area that's clearly been designed for it. But I guess we'll have to wait on that. The grappling hook is clearly very involved, and that looks fun, but I want to see what the free running looks like. But once Naoe climbs up the wall with the grappling hook, we see her do an air assassination, and then she grabs this woman, drags her inside, and knocks her out. This definitely reminds me of how you could kidnap people in Syndicate and either knock them out or assassinate them. It was a really cool social stealth mechanic as well, because you could use that feature to move around restricted areas without being seen. Although here it seems like just a way to grab them and move them into a more favorable position where you can either knock them out or kill them. I do like the animation though, as Naoe strangles this poor woman with the grappling hook. We can see Naoe extinguish a lantern by just simply walking up to it and holding triangle, and we see her assassinate this guy through the shoji door with her katana, which you'll actually have to unsheath yourself. The game won't just do the animation if you walk up and press assassinate, you need the katana in hand. I like that the other weapons can be used with assassinations as well, as we can see with the katana and the Kusarigama earlier, and the developers confirmed in the breakdown that each weapon type will be able to be used for a unique assassination. This shows that we can still see enemies through walls with eagle vision, however it seems like the farther away they are, the more faint their silhouette will appear. So it's a bit different from how it's functioned in Valhalla and Mirage, and I believe the point of this is just to make stealth a little more challenging so we don't have full wall hacks. Naoe then hides on the ceiling from this guard, and the dev said we can even assassinate enemies below us from these ceiling beams as well. She then uses a kunai to kill this guy in one shot with a headshot, so it seems similar to the throwing knives from Mirage. The kunai should usually be a one-shot kill to the head, unless enemies have helmets, I assume. Which is important because ranged options are a little bit more limited without the bow. And the shuriken don't actually deal damage, they're used to stagger enemies and destroy light sources, as we saw earlier. We can see the dynamic weather at work here as well as it begins to storm. The developer said rain will cover the noise of your footsteps and make it harder for enemies to see you, which is pretty cool. And they say that this demo takes place in the spring, but if you were to do this mission in the winter, the pond would be entirely frozen over, so you wouldn't be able to go prone and go underwater like in this demo. And this part caught me off guard, but now we can use a breathing stick while underwater, so you can lie in wait for an enemy for more extended periods of time. I really like that, and just like that, she kills the target from a prone position. So you can actually assassinate enemies while prone, which is good to know, and it looks like there's even a unique animation for it. We then get to see some combat with the Kusarigama. To me, this is easily the coolest weapon type in the game, and the fact that we can use it in stealth like we saw earlier as well, I'm definitely using this whenever possible. The combat with it looks very strong, and you can see how it damages the environment around her as she swings it as well. And the gameplay demo ends with Naoe using her agility to escape by diving out the window. From what they've shown so far, it seems like Naoe can do so much more than Yasuke. She has so many more options, especially when it comes to stealth and traversal, and she can still be strong at combat, clearly. So hopefully there's more reasons to play Yasuke as well, because I feel like a large chunk of the community right now would prefer to play Naoe because she can just do so much more. Yasuke doesn't even get the grappling hook and all the unique stealth tools. He does get a rifle, which there has been some gameplay of now, but to me, that's still not enough to make him feel worth playing over Naoe. But for those who just want to constantly be a combat powerhouse, I'm sure he's great for that. But with all that said, I think AC Shadows is looking quite promising thus far. There are still some concerns I have, of course, like with any Assassin's Creed game, but also like with every AC game, there's a lot of potential here, so hopefully it doesn't disappoint. So far, so good to me though. Of course, that's how I feel. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you considered leaving a like and subscribing to the channel if you're new. And aside from that, thank you for watching everybody, and have a great rest of your day, Assassins.